Today for Fiction Friday, we're starting a new book. We finished up Master Frisky last week, and now we'll be reading Lad, a Dog by Albert Payson Terhune. It's a long book, but the chapters are individual stories, just like in Master Frisky, so you don't need to read all of them to follow along. Also, the chapters are very long, so we'll be breaking them up into several parts. Ready? Let's begin. Chapter 1, His Mate. Lady was as much a part of Lad's everyday happiness as the sunshine itself. She seemed to him quite as perfect, and as gloriously indispensable. He could no more have imagined a ladyless life than a sunless life. It had never occurred to him to suspect that Lady could be any less devoted than he, until Knave came to the place. Lad was an 80-pound collie, thoroughbred in spirit as well as in blood. He had the benign dignity that was a heritage from endless generations of high-strain ancestors. He had, too, the gay courage of a D'Artagnan and an uncanny wisdom. Also, who could doubt it, after a look into his mournful brown eyes, he had a soul. His shaggy coat, set off by the snowy ruff and chest, was like orange-flecked mahogany. His absurdly tiny forepaws, in which he took inordinate pride, were silver white. 3 years earlier, when Lad was in his first prime, before the mighty chest and shoulders had filled out, and the tawny coat had waxed so shaggy, Lady had been brought to the place. She had been brought in by the master's overcoat pocket, rolled up into a fuzzy gold-gray ball of softness no bigger than a half-grown kitten. The master had fished the month-old puppy out of the cavern of his pocket and set her down, asprawl and shivering and squealing, on the veranda floor. Lad had walked cautiously across the veranda, sniffed inquiringly at the blinking pygmy who gallantly essayed to growl defiance at the huge welcomer, and from that moment he had taken her under his protection. First it had been the natural impulse of the thoroughbred, brute or human, to guard the helpless. Then, as the shapeless yellow baby grew into a slenderly graceful collie, his guardianship changed to stark adoration. He was Lady's life slave. And she bullied him mercifully, bossed the gentle giant in a shameful manner, crowding him from the warmest spot by the fire, brazenly yet daintily snatching from him between his jaws the choicest bone of their joint dinner, hectoring their dignified victim into lawn romps in hot weather when he would have rather have drowsed under the lakeside trees. Her vagaries, her teasing, her occasional little flurries of temper were borne by Lad not meekly, but joyously. All she did was, in his eyes, perfect, and Lady graciously allowed herself to be idolized, for she was marvelously human in some ways. Lad, a thoroughbred descended from 100 generations of thoroughbreds, was less human and more disinterested. Life at the place was a wondrous pleasant for both the dogs. There were thick woods to roam in side by side. There were squirrels to chase and rabbits to trail. Yes, and if the squirrels had played fair and not had resorted to unsportsmanly tactics by climbing trees when close pressed, there would doubtless have been squirrels to catch as well as to chase. As for the rabbits, they were easier to overtake, and Lady got the lion's share of all such morsels. There was the ice-cool lake to plunge in for a swim or a wallow after a run in the dust and July heat. There was a deliciously comfortable old rug in front of the living room's open fire whereon to lie, shoulder to shoulder, on the nights when the wind screamed through the bare trees and the snow scratched hungrily at the plains. Best of all, to them both, there were the master and mistress, especially the mistress. Any man with money to make the purchase may become a dog's owner, but no man, spend he ever so much coin and food and tact in the effort, may become a dog's master without the consent of a dog. Do you get the difference? And he whom a dog once unreservedly accepts as master is forever that dog's god. To both Lad and Lady, from the first, The man who bought them was not the mere owner, but the absolute master. To them he was the unquestioned Lord of life and death, the hearer and answerer, the eternal law. His, the voice that must be obeyed, whatever the command. From the earliest puppyhood, both lad and lady had been brought up within the law. As far back as they could remember, they had known and obeyed the place's simple code. For example, all the animals of the woods might lawfully be chased, but the mistress's prized chickens and the other little folk of the place must be ignored, no matter how hungry or how playful a collie might have chanced to be. A human walking openly or riding down the drive into the place by daylight must not be barked at, except by way of friendly announcement. But anyone regarding and entering the grounds from other ingress other than the drive, or anyone walking furtively or with a tramp slouch, must be attacked at sight. Also, the interior of the house was sacrosanct. It was a place for perfect behavior. No rug must be scratched, nothing gnawed or played with. In fact, Lady's one whipping had followed a puppy frolic effort of hers to worry the huge stuffed bald eagle that stood on a papier-mâché stump in the master's study, just off the big living room where the fireplace was. That eagle, shot by himself as it raided the flock of prized chickens, was the delight of the master's heart, and at Lady's attempt on it, he had taught her a lesson that made her cringe for weeks after at bare sight of the dog whip. To this day, she would never walk past the eagle without making the widest possible detour from it. But that punishment had been suffered while she was still in the idiotic days of puppyhood. After she was grown, Lady would no more have thought of tampering with the eagle or with anything else in the house than it would occur to her for a human to stand on his head at church. Well, that's all for today. Lad sounds like a wonderful dog, and Lady too. Imagine them learning how to not be a scamp inside the house so quickly. I'm still a puppy and have trouble with that. I love that they think their master is their god. I call my owners and masters Daddy and Mommy. That's the closest relationship I could possibly have with them, and I love them very much. And they love me, even when I'm being a bit of a scamp. Be sure to come back on Monday for the start of a very special Music Monday series leading up to my Gotcha Day on Halloween. That's the day I came home to my forever family. And join me next Wednesday for our next wiki article, and then Friday for the next part in Lad. Thanks for hanging out with me today.